I'm going to show you how to make a necklace with a pendant, a bezeled Rivoli, and then the necklace portion connected to the pendant. I was initially only going to do the bezel part, or the pendant portion of this tutorial, and then after I made it, it was pretty, I liked it, so I decided to design a necklace to go with it. So my material list for the necklace is after the material list for the bezel, so there will be two on there, but that way you can gather everything together and make the entire project, or you can just make the bezeled Rivoli if you'd like. I have made this with a modified herringbone and with sections in between for movement so that the herringbone will lay correctly, because it's a straight stitch and you want it to be able to go around the neck. So we've got some sections here for movement, and then the back portion also allows it to lay on the neck correctly. So that's how it's designed, so that it will lay correctly. If you put your toggle on twisted, then it's not going to lay correctly. Make sure you put your toggle on without twisting the necklace, and it should lay really nice on your neck. If you want to change the length, I wanted this originally to be an 18-inch necklace. It's now a 20. If you want to change the length, stop in your last section of herringbone at 15 units or at 10 units instead of 20, probably 10 units. Put on this portion, because this portion is very useful and helpful to keep the thing straight. So put on this portion, just reduce your section of herringbone, and then you can have a necklace that hangs right beneath your throat instead of down on the chest a little more. Anyway, let's go ahead and look at the material list and see what it takes to make this project today. Okay, so what you will need for the pendant portion of this tutorial is a 18mm round Rivoli. This is a Swarovski and it is sapphire. And then I have light sapphire 3mm bicone crystals. And then I have a light aqua 4mm bicone crystal. These are all Swarovski. And then you'll need 11-0, 8-0, and 15-0 seed beads. These are all Toho. This is Starlight. It's the galvanized gold tone in the Toho line. And then this is a metallic bronze. And this one is the 8-0, and my other 11-0 is Montana Gold. For the necklace portion, you will need 8-0 seed beads, and you want to have a lot on hand, so make sure you have a good size tube. 8-10 grams, something like that. That will be more than enough. You won't need that many, but make sure you have enough on hand. Then a few 11-0 seed beads, some 15-0 seed beads, and you'll want a couple grams of those. And then you'll need 4 6mm bicones, and I am using the light sapphire that matches the 4mm, the 3mm, and the Rivoli that I'm using in this project. So I believe they're all light sapphire or Ceylon, one of the two. So 6mm bicone crystals, 4 of them. Then you're going to need a combination of your 4mm bicone crystals, or you can just use one or the other color. You don't have to have both. But I used the aqua and the light sapphire in the Rivoli. So we will use also a combination of 4mm bicones in those two colors. And then you'll need a few of your 3mm bicone crystals and a toggle clasp. Then I'm going to use 8-pound Nanofil. You can also use 6-pound Fireline or 10-pound Nanofil. That will work. I wouldn't go much bigger sizes with that because we're using 15-0 seed beads. You'll also want to use a size 12 beading needle if you have one. Thread onto your needle about a wingspan of thread, and we'll get started. Okay, we will begin this project by putting 24 8-0 seed beads onto your thread. Double count them, and then bring them down to the end of the thread. And you don't have to leave a really long tail. You just want enough to hold on to at this point. And then just grab onto a couple of the beads and go through them from the tail side. Pull your thread through while holding onto the tail end a few of the beads and form a circle. and then continue sewing through the rest of the beads. So I'm coming out here, I'm just going to continue where I left off and go through as many beads as I can and pull my thread through. I'm holding onto the tail and the first couple of beads just to keep it from slipping. And then I'm just going to continue sewing through all the way until I get around to where my working thread will be right next to my tail thread coming out. And once I'm there, I will take my tail thread and my working thread and I will tie them into a little knot, bringing the knot down between the beads. At this point, you can slide it a little bit. Let's do another one. That one didn't really tie well, so let's do another knot. I want it to hold my beads, but I want to be able to move it. So I don't want to tie it really, really tightly, just enough to where I can get a little slack between my beads as I'm working my next step. So just make sure it's not extremely tight, your beads move around a little bit, and they're not bunched. Then bring your needle through a couple of beads just to move away from the knot. So just go through 2 beads here. Okay, then we're going to do peyote, but we're going to do 2 drop in a circular pattern here. So we're coming out of 2 beads here. We're going to skip 2 beads here, and then we're going to go into 2 beads. So I'm coming out here, I'm skipping these 2, I'm going in here. I'm going to hold my fingers on the beads just to make everything nice and secure, and I can pop those beads right where I want them. Well, the 2 that they're going on top of kind of pop towards the inside like this. And then I'm going to pick up 2 of my beads. I'm going to skip 2 and go through 2. And again, I'm going to hold my fingers over the piece and guide my thread because I have an awful lot of thread. So I just want to keep it from tangling. And then, this is what you should have so far. Pick up 2 more, skip 2, go into 2. And again, skip 2, go into 2. Continue until we get all the way over here, and then we will be back. Okay, so I'm going to put my last set in. I'm coming out here. This is where my tail is, so I'm just going to ignore the tail. I'm coming out of 2, I'm going to skip 2, I'm going to go into these 2, and then up into the 2 above the next 2, right there. So skipping 2, going into, and then up on the top layer. And that is your step up. Just make sure that tail doesn't get tangled in. And tuck it back here and pull these down. And this is what I have. Now I'm going to make sure my beads lay nice. I want them flat. I do not want them to curve up, so don't pull it too tight till it curves. If it does, then you need to loosen them a little bit. Now we're coming out of these 2 beads here. We are going to go into the middle set here. And pull. Now, just to make this more secure, this will be the bottom of our piece, we're going to pick up 3 11-0 seed beads, and we're going to go from this inner set, so you've got a set up and down, a set in the middle, and a set up and down. We are coming out of the set in the middle. We're going to skip over the sets that are up and down and go into the next set in the middle and place 3 11-0 seed beads right on top of the up and down sets. Just pull your thread through. I'll show you in a second. I'll move my thumb, I promise. Now my 3 11-0s are on top of those 2 side-by-side sets of beads, and I'm going to do that again. I'm coming out of the middle set, I'm skipping over the 2 up and down sets and going into the next middle set and placing 3 11-0 seed beads over the up and down sets. And I'm going to work all the way around the circle doing this. So go ahead and continue putting 3 11-0 seed beads over these sets and scooting through the middle sets. And we'll be back. Okay, so I've got all the way around, and I am just about to put my last set of 3 11-0 seed beads over the side-by-side beads. So I'm going to go into the straight beads here, and I will go up into the 3 11-0s also. So I can't get all 3. I'm just going to go through 2. Let me get you a little closer. So I'm going through my straight set, laying the 3 11-0s over the side-by-side sets, and then up into the first set of 3 11-0s that I made previously. Now I'm going to go into the straight set here and then down into the inside sticking out set here and pull. So now you should have something that looks kind of like a crown, and you are going to place 11-0 seed beads between these sets of double seed beads on the inside, just so that it pulls everything together and gives us a nice base to set the Rivoli on. So I've got an 11-0 seed bead. I'm coming out here. I'm going to go into this set right here. As you do this, pull your bead in gently and just tighten them together. Don't put a ton of tension on it, just enough to where you don't see the thread. And continue. Go into the next set, pick up an 11-0, go from this set to this set. Like that. And as we get all the way around, we can pull it a little tighter and make sure that it comes together nicely. So just continue putting your 11-0 seed beads between the middle sets, and we'll be back. Okay, I'm just about to put my last 11-0 in, so I'm going to go from this set to this set. I'm going to give it a nice tight tug. And if you need to, if your thread is showing too much, we can just sew through all these beads again to make sure they're nice and tight. So I can go from my next 11-0 to my 8-0, to my 8-0 here, and they're at funny angles now. So just sew through a couple, give another tug, and then continue. As much as you need to, you can go all the way around, or you can just go a little ways around until you can get a nice tension that will help keep the piece together and not show a lot of thread between the stitches here. A little tiny bit might show. I mean, you're never going to get it all, but if you sew around, reinforcing it, you can usually get a pretty good tension on it. And that looks pretty good. I don't see a lot of thread coming through. You may see it in the magnification of my lens, but to the bare eye, I don't see a whole lot. So I'm coming out of these 2 11-0s here, or 8-0s, excuse me. It doesn't matter where you're at on the circle. Be coming out of 2 8-0s and then go up into the 2 side 8-0s above it. So here's my 11-0. I'm going up into these 2 side 8-0s right here. And pull. And then I'm going to cut this tail off. And just turn it over. So we were working on this side, putting our 11 O's on. Now we want to work on the side where our 8 O's are sticking up. So what we're going to do now is we're coming out of these two 8 O's right here. We are now going to pop up into this 8 O right here. Let me back up just a tiny bit so it doesn't get blurry. Come up through just one of the 8 O's, pick up an 8 O, go through the 8 O next to it, and pop the 8 O down in between the two 8 O's that are sticking up. Then you're going to pick up a 15 O seed bead, a bicone crystal 4mm, and a 15 O seed bead, like this. And we're going to go from this 8 O we're coming out of into the first 8 O on the next set sticking up, just one of them, and go through it. Pull these beads nice and tight between, and then pick up an 8 O seed bead and go into the next 8 O seed bead and pop it down. Okay, so now we're coming out of the set of 8 O's, and we're going to pick up a 15 O, a 4mm bicone, come here you, and a 15 O, and that's what you should have on your needle. And we're just going to travel again from this set to just one of the 8 O seed beads in the next set that are sticking up, and pull this down. Then pick up an 8 O seed bead and pop it in between. So we'll just go into the next 8 O and pull. And then we'll do that again. So pick up a 15 O seed bead, a bicone crystal 4mm, and a 15 O. We're going from this 8 O seed bead into the first 8 O seed bead in the next set that's sticking up. And then we just grab an 8 O seed bead and go into the next 8 O and pop that down. Make sure it goes nice and neat between the beads. You can kind of feel it just pop down in there. Continue going all the way around, putting in the bicones and the 8 O's, and we'll be back. Okay, so I am ready to put in my last bicone with 15 O's. So I'm just going to go up into this 8 O, and I will go up into the 8 O that we put in on our first stitch. So now instead of just having 2, we have 3. We're going to go up through the side one and through the one in the middle, and then just pull down. And this is what you should have. To secure this, we're just going to go ahead and go down into the bead beneath the one we're coming out of. So we're coming out right here. We're going to go down into this one, the 15 O, and the crystal. So I'm going to take this one bead at a time. So I'm going to go through that 8 O down there, and then into this 15 O here. I'm sorry, I've been beading a lot. My eyes are a little strained. I can't see very well today. So I'm sorry, guys. We're going to go up into this 15 O. And crystal. Then down into this 15 O and 8 O here. So we're just traveling through the first crystal and 15 O's we put on, through the 8 O, and then up into the top 8 O that we put in our last stitch, just like this. Now, in our next stitch, we're going to pick up a 4mm bicone, an 8 O seed bead, and a 4mm bicone. And we're going to go from this sticking up 8 O to this sticking up 8 O, just bypassing the crystal that we put on, and just place it over the top. and do that again. Pick up a 4mm bicone, an 8/0 seed bead, and a 4mm bicone. I don't think there's any 8/0 bicones. Oh well, getting a little stir crazy. Alright, so I'm coming out of this 8/0, I'm going to go into this 8/0. All the way around the piece, we are going to put this combination of beads in the sticking up 8/0 seed beads going over the top of the crystals. Continue all the way around. When we get to the end, we'll be back. Okay, so I'm all the way around. I have to put in my last segment of bicones in 8/0. So I'm going to go over this one and then into the bead I started in when I started this entire round. So I'm going to go into this 8/0 seed bead right here and then up into the 8/0, the crystal and the 8/0 behind it. Push that up over the top, and as you pull and tighten, you're going to see that it makes a little circle like this. Now we're going to go over a couple more beads just to secure that last stitch. So we're coming out of this 8/0, we're going to go into a crystal, 8/0 crystal, and then another 8/0, just to make sure that everything is pretty secure. Pull your thread through. And at this point, we are going to pick up two 3mm bicone crystals onto our needle. And we're going to go from 8/0 to 8/0 with these bicones. So we're coming out of this 8/0, we're going to skip the 8/0 that's down in between the bicones and go up into the 8/0 that's up between the bicones we just put on. So let me show you clearly so you understand. We have a set of 3 bicones here, then we have an 8/0, and then we have a set of 3 bicones. We're going to go from this 8/0 to this 8/0 right here. So put 2 bicone crystals, the 3mm, on and pull. Now this isn't going to tighten perfectly until we're completely done and sew through it again. We're just going to put them in place. So we're going from this 8/0, now we're going to skip over the down 8/0 and go into the next up 8/0 between the crystals. And this will bend it down and in. Pick up another set of bicones. And then go into the next 8/0. And at this point, you're going to want to slide your Rivoli in. So we're going to take the Rivoli and put it face up. As we do this, we'll have to push the sides up and around the Rivoli because you'll feel that this netting that we've created needs to stretch as we do this all the way around on each side. So you'll have to kind of navigate the stretching for it. So first of all, let's just get a lot of our beads in so that we can then worry about that. So we're going from this 8/0, we're going to skip this down 8/0, go into this up 8/0, and pull. Skip this down 8/0, go into this up 8/0, and see this is where I need to stretch my netting up over the side here because it has a lot of play, so we need to just kind of guide it. If I can make my hands work, we'll do that. Now, let me pick up 2 more. I'm going to back up just a little bit. I may be obnoxiously close, I don't know. It's hard to tell in my little tiny camera thingy. Now, I'm coming from this 8/0. I'm going to go into this very last 8/0. And the first 2 crystals I put on and the 8/0 behind it. Stick my Rivoli back in there. I'm going to pull this down and I'm going to now stretch my beading all the way around the Rivoli nice and even. Now you're going to see there's a little bit of thread here and there. Just kind of stretch it forward, and then we're going to sew all the way around that again, securing it, centering it, and making sure we don't have a bunch of thread showing between the crystals and the 8/0s here. Let me get you a little closer again so you can see. Now just go ahead and go through all of the beads. So you want to go through the 3mm crystals, the 8/0s, the 3mm, all the way around. As you do that, you're going to adjust your netting to make sure that it's nice and neat around that Rivoli. Takes a little finagling. It's not tough. It does fit. And I do recommend that you use toe hose for this to make sure that it's going to all fit around correctly. So I'm just continuing, and as I do this, I'm just adjusting everything. You can kind of hear it pop and move, and it just kind of closes up around that Rivoli. Once you're all the way around, or you can go a few more past your halfway mark, whatever, as long as you have it looking nice and neat and everything is around drawn up really pretty. This is what it should look like. This is what the back looks like. And then what we're going to do is we're going to slide down this bicone crystal here. Make sure as you do this, take one bead at a time so you can tighten anything that will loosen. Because at this point, if it loosens up around here, you're not going to be able to get it tight again. So make sure you take one bead at a time, give a little tug, and then go into, you're coming out of this crystal now, go into the 8/0 beneath it. Then go into the 8/0 beneath that one at the funny angle here. Just go through it just like this. Now the tough part will be traveling around these 15/0s, so let's see if we can get into it. If we cannot, we'll just add a 15/0 and bypass it. If you can get through the 15/0, then go up through the 15/0 in the crystal. If you cannot, then just pick up a 15/0 and then go into the crystal. And then again into the 15/0 and then into the 8/0 behind it. And just come through one 8/0 and come up. Just like that. Make sure everything is nice and tight. If you'd like to tie a knot right here, you can go ahead and do that. Let's do that. Let's go between these two beads on the thread bridge, between this bead and this bead if we can. See how we can finagle our needle through there. Make sure your thread's nice and tight, and then pull a knot down in there just to secure it. Go through this 8/0 here. Okay, so after tying the knot, we're going to go into this 8/0 seed bead here. Pull everything back into shape, kind of mangled it here. And then into these 3 11/0 seed beads right underneath these 8/0s. And that is your Rivoli, your pendant. This is what it looks like. Very pretty. And now that we're coming out of these 3 11/0 seed beads, we are going to start the necklace portion by picking up a 6mm bicone and 3 8/0 seed beads, and I'll show you in a minute what I'm getting here, and a 6mm bicone, just like this. Now we're coming out of the 3 11-ohs on the back of the pendant here. We're going to go into the opposite side from which we're coming out, and we're just going to pull this combination of beads down. And then we're going to sew back up through them. So go up through all of these beads, and I'm just going to go through each one of my 8-ohs just because I kind of want to form a peak with them. So I'm going through the first one, then the second one, pulling it up, and then going into the bicone crystal. And then back into the 3 11-oh seed beads on the back, and then up into my bicone. Now this is your connection, so if you want to sew through it again, feel free to do that. You want it to be nice and strong. Now we're going to go up into the 8-ohs and exit the center 8-oh, and then we'll just turn the pendant over. And this is what you should have. And now that we're coming out of this center 8-oh seed bead, we will start a modified herringbone stitch. First we're going to put on a 3mm bicone crystal, and then 2 8-oh seed beads, and I'll show you what I'm getting, and then a 3mm bicone crystal, just like this. And we're coming from this side, we're going to go into this side and pull down. Now you want these 2 8-ohs to lay on top of the crystals like a herringbone, so just pull them until they separate and lay out correctly. Now I am going to sew up through these, and I just have to turn it over to do that so that I can reach it. So I'm coming out of the 8-oh, I'm going to go up into both of these beads right here, pulling it straight so that it lays the way I want it to, and then I will go into the other 2, and then back into my 8-oh. Now you're going to go straight up through the crystal and the first 8-oh seed bead, or the 8-oh seed bead on top of it. I guess there's only one, so it's the first one. And I'm going to turn this back over. And that's what you should have. Now we're going to start doing some herringbone. So you're going to pick up 2 8-oh seed beads. On this first stitch, we are going to go just through the 8-oh seed bead here. We're not going to go down through the crystal, just through the 8-oh. And we're going to pull 2 8-oh seed beads on top of here. Now, the way that we're modifying this is adding a 15-oh in between the stitches. As we come through and make our new stitch, we will put a 15-oh in the previous stitch. So now this is what we have. We're going to pick up a 15-oh seed bead. We're coming out of the 8-oh here. We're going to go up into the 8-ohs on this side, both of them. Now I'm just going to hold on to my 15-oh so it doesn't slide under my other beads. And then I'm going to pop it up, and it just lands right there between the crystals. So you can see right between the 8-ohs and the crystals, and it covers whatever thread would have shown in the herringbone stitch. Now we're going to pick up 2 more of our 8-oh seed beads. We're coming out of this side. We're going to go just into the 1 bead on this side, not both of them, just one, and pull it down. Lay them out, and then you're going to pick up a 15-oh seed bead, and you're going to cross over and go up through 2 beads on this side. And this isn't difficult, it's just hard for me to stay in camera and do this and hold it nicely so you can see. Now I'm going up through 2 8-oh seed beads like this, and I'm going to kind of hold on to it and just kind of keep my 15-oh centered and then pull it up through. Now if it wants to go underneath one of your 8-ohs, you'll just have to move it over. See, sometimes you'll pull it like that and it won't go, so you just move it over and pull it up, and it'll pop really pretty between those 8-oh seed beads, just like that. So now we're going to pick up 2 more 8-ohs, go through one on the opposite side from which we're coming out of, pull them down, make sure they lay out correctly, pick up a 15-0, cross over, go up through two on this side. And I'm going to hold on to that 15-0 just because I've learned that if I don't, it pops under that 8-0 and then I have to arrange it, which is not that big of a deal, but I'd rather not. So that's how that looks. And we're going to continue doing this until we have 20 herringbone stitches. So let's do one more together. We're coming out of this side. We're going to go into one on this side after picking up two 8-0 seed beads, pull them down, pick up a 15-0, and cross over, go up two of your stitches, or two of your 8-0s on this side. Now I'm just going to hold on to my 15-0. I'm going to pull this down, pop it in place, and that's how you do that. We're going to continue doing these stitches until we have 20 of them, and we'll just count the pairs. So the pair as one. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 so far. I'm going to make 20 of them, and we will be back. Okay, now I have finished 20 units of the herringbone stitch, and you can see I have not put my 15-0 seed bead between my last stitch yet because I didn't have anything to go up through. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up a 4mm bicone crystal, and I'm going to use my darker blue color. Then I'm going to pick up an 8-0 seed bead, and I'm going to pick up a 4mm bicone crystal. I'm coming out of this side of the herringbone. We're going to go into the bead next to the one we're coming out of, go down into it, pull your beads down, and these you're going to have to arrange so that they lay in a triangular shape right there. Now, as you go up through, you're going to pick up your 15-0 seed bead just like you would when you're doing your regular herringbone, and then come through the opposite side of from which you're coming out, go up through the crystal also. I leave my thumb here so that my 15-0 is here and it won't fall down between my beads, and it'll guide right up in between where I want it to go. Then I'm going to come up through this 8-0 seed bead right here, and I need to add another 15-0 here, and at the same time I'll be reinforcing these crystals. So I will go down through this crystal, I'll pick up a 15-0 seed bead, and I'll go up through the crystal on this side. And as I do that, I'll just hold my 15-0 in the middle, pop it up so that it goes between the crystals, like so. Making sure it looks good. And then I'll go up into this 8-0 seed bead here. Then I will pick up 3 8-0 seed beads, because now we are going to do a unit of right angle weave. This will give some movement to the necklace itself, make it so that it'll fit round around the neck, and just give it a little bit more interest. So just make your unit and then sew back through it to secure it. One bead at a time to retain the nice shape. Once you've done that, then you're going to sew up into the top bead. So go through the side bead, into the top bead, and now we're going to prepare to make another strand of our herringbone. And this time I'm going to use the light color of bicones. So I'm going to pick up a bicone, I'm going to pick up 2 8-0 seed beads and a bicone. And then I'm going to come back through this unit, or this unit of right angle weave in the top bead. Pull this down. Now I'm going to sew back up through, and I'm going to sew up through the crystal here so that I can just get some form, and then I'm going to sew through the bottom of the 8-0 and pull it kind of out so that it lays nice, and then also through this side, the 8/0 and the crystal. And now that's prepared nicely. Now I'm going to sew back into this 8/0, and then I'm going to pick it up, Gina, go through this crystal and the 8/0 here. Geez, it won't stay in my hand. There we go. Now, my problem is my 8/0s are a little bit different shape. I hate when that happens. Oh well, we're going to go on. We're going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads and start our herringbone. So we're going to pick up 2 8/0s. We're going to go through just the 8/0 on the opposite side from what you're coming out of. Hold on to it, pull your beads down, arrange them so that they lay out with the holes up, and then pick up your 15/0 seed bead. Go between the crystals and the herringbone stitch and pull your 15/0 down. Forgot to hold it, and it should pop right down into those crystals just like that. And then we're going to continue with our herringbone stitch just like we did on the previous section. So we're going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads and go into the opposite bead from which we're coming out of, pull our thread through, arrange them, pick up a 15/0 seed bead, go up into 2 8/0s on this side, and pull it down. Now, if you didn't hold your 8/0, you're going to have to arrange, or your 15/0, you're going to have to arrange it just like I just did. So we are going to continue. Let's do one more. And pick up a 15/0 and cross over and go through 2 on this side. This is harder for me to do on camera. Sorry guys, it's just really hard to hold everything perfect in front of the camera here. And then pull. Now we're going to continue doing that until we have made 20 more of our units of herringbone. Once we've done that, okay, so now I have done my 20 stitches of herringbone in my second segment here, and now I'm going to make the little middle segment again just like I did before. So what I will do is this time I'm going to pick up the light color because I have the light color here. I'm going to put the light color here. On each segment I will keep the colors the same on the segments and just switch between the two as I make the segments. So now I'm going to pick up a 4mm bicone crystal, an 8/0 seed bead, and a 4mm bicone crystal. Go down into the herringbone stitch on the opposite bead from which I'm coming out of, or the bead next to it. Excuse me. And I'm going to pull this down. Make sure that it goes on top of your beads in a triangular shape like this. And then, of course, when you're doing this, sometimes you will get your last 15/0 loose. Just pull them up, pull on the threads, and that will tighten your last 15/0 if that happens. And then pick up a 15/0 seed bead and go into the opposite bead from which you're coming out, the one next to it, and up through the crystal. Pull your 15/0 seed bead down while holding onto the herringbone so you can guide that 15/0 in the proper place. And then go up through the 8/0 seed bead. Sorry, I have a knot in my thread. Let me get it out. Okay, pull this down. And then I am going to sew back around and place the 15/0 between the herringbone and the crystals. So now I'll sew down into this crystal here. Let's get a little closer. And then pick up a 15/0 seed bead. Go into the opposite crystal. Hold on to your 15/0, pull your thread through, and pop it down in between the crystals like this, and then up into the 8/0. Once you are through the 8/0 seed bead on the top, then you're going to pick up 2 crystals, and I'm going to make the next segment with my darker color. So I'm going to pick up my darker 4mm round crystal. I'm going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads and then a crystal. I'm going to bring these down and then go into the opposite side from which I'm coming out. My piece got twisted. Okay, now I'm going to go into the opposite side from which I'm coming out and pull this down. And now I will sew up into the crystal. I'm going to turn my piece just so I can get to it better. And I'm going to sew up into the crystal here and the 8/0 on top of it. I'm going to hold on to them just so they stay in the right place, pull my thread, and then I'm going to sew into the opposite side, both the crystal and the 8/0. Pull it down, and then through the 8/0 seed bead. I will go up into the crystal and into the first 8 or the 8/0 on top of it. And pull my thread through. Then I will make my first stitch of herringbone. So I'm going to pick up 2 8/0 seed beads, go down into the opposite bead, pick up a 15/0 seed bead, go into the 8/0 on top of the crystal on the opposite side from which I'm working, and or from which my thread is coming out, and pull this down. I will pop that 15/0 between the crystals, and then I will continue my herringbone. We will continue making sections like this, 20 herringbone stitches with the crystals on either side and the right angle weave until we have 3 complete sets. And you want to make sure that you finished your 20 herringbone at the very end, put your crystals on, did your right angle weave unit, just like you would do if you were going to make another unit. So once you've done that, then we're going to go ahead and put the clasping on this side, and then I'll show you how to tie on and do the other side. The way we're going to do this is basically the way we've been doing this all along. So I'm going to pick up some of my lighter color since I just finished with my dark color. I'm going to pick up a light and 4mm bicone and 2 8/0 seed beads and a light color bicone onto my needle. Let me get you closer. And we're going to go ahead and make a unit like we would if we were to start a new section of herringbone. So we're just going to pull this down. Having thread issues today, I'm telling you. It just wants to argue with me continually. And there we go. And now I'm going to sew up through this. So I'm going to go up through the crystal here. I'm just going to turn it over so I can reach it. And the herringbone, yeah, well, it will be. And the 8/0 on top. And then I'm going to go into the opposite side, the 8/0 and the crystal, and then pull through. I'm going to turn this over again now, and I'm going to sew through the 8/0 seed bead and up into the crystal. Tighten this up. And now I'm going to do just a couple units of herringbone just to make this just a little bit longer, simply because it's going to be right at around 18 inches. once I do a couple of units. If I did a whole strand, then it would be really long, and I want this to be more of a collar size, not a long necklace. So I'm going to do just a few more units of herringbone just to make it just a little bit longer, but not too long. So now I'm coming out of this 8/0, I'm going to go into this 8/0 just like we've been doing. Pull this down, grab my 15/0 seed bead, and go up into the opposite 8/0 from next to where I'm coming out of anyway, and then up through the one on top of it. Pull my 15/0 seed bead down between the crystals and the 8/0s, like this. And then I'm going to do one more set just to make sure that I can get my 15/0 seed bead in there. Put my 15/0 in here. And now I'm going to pick up a light color, or actually I think I'll use a 3mm crystal this time. No, what do I want to do? I'll use a light color, 4mm bicone, an 8/0 seed bead, and a 4mm bicone, and go down through my herringbone. And pull this down into a triangle. Pick up a 15/0 seed bead, go into the 8/0 here. Make sure you're close enough so you can see, and pull that through. Now I need to get a 15/0 in here and secure this, so I'm going to go through the 8/0. I'm going to go through the crystal, pick up a 15/0, and then just come up through the crystal on this side. And then I'm going to go through this 8/0 seed bead. I am now going to pick up two 11/0s and a 3mm crystal. Now, if you're worried that the crystal is going to cut your thread, you can use an 8/0 seed bead. It's up to you. I'm going to then pick up an 8/0 also. No, yeah, I think I will, just to protect a little bit. So two 11/0s, a crystal, and an 8/0. Then I am going to come through my clasp, and then I'm going to come through the 8/0 and the crystal. And then I'm going to pick up two 11/0 seed beads and go into the opposite side of the 8/0 from which I started. So I'm going to go on this side now. Just the 8/0, and pull this down. And that should make a nice pretty clasp. Now I'm going to go up through and this may have given me a little bit more length than I want. We'll find out. But I'm designing this as I'm making the video. So now what I've done is just go through the clasp, go through the 8/0, the bicone crystal, and the 11/0s on this side, and back into this 8/0 seed bead. And just because I want more strength, I'm going to go down into the crystals beneath and into this 15/0, and then into the crystal, back up into my 8/0 seed bead, and then sew through my clasping one more time. Now you can sew through your clasping just coming through this 8/0 as many times as you want. You don't have to go back down into the crystals. I only did that because that's a part that could cut easily, so I wanted to make sure I had more thread in it. Once I get back to the 8/0 seed bead, I'm going to grab a knot on the thread bridge right here. Make sure everything looks good before you knot it. You don't have any weird thread or anything hanging out. Go underneath the thread bridge right here. Go through the loop with your needle and pull your knot down between the beads. And then go down into the crystal. And through the 15/0. Down into the herringbone. You can take all three. Just don't pull it really tight and pull your herringbone without any movement. Now right here, I am just going to grab another knot on the, actually I think I'll go beneath the crystal. I'm going to go under the crystal, be a better place, and tie a knot right here. And then I'll go through this unit here. Down into the crystal here. And then I'm just going to cut off my thread, but I'm going to bring it to the back of my necklace. Let's bring it back here. Cut my thread. Bring it down. And push it to the back here. Now, I have finished one side of my necklace. Now, let me show you what it looks like. I'll get some of this stuff out of the way. And I'll lay it out nice and neat later, but this is what it looks like so far. Now I am going to show you how to tie onto this side because we did not have a tail to work with or another thread over here to work with. We have to tie onto this unit. We'll tie on, start the herringbone, and do the exact same thing on this side. Okay, so thread onto your needle a wingspan of thread. You're probably going to have to extend it at some point, but start with a wingspan. More than that is just too much to work with at once. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to turn my pendant over, move the piece that I've already made over. And now what you want to do is, actually I want to use this side. I made a little mistake in mine. I had an extra seed bead here. So I want to skip one section of the 3/11 seed beads. So like we're coming out of this one, we're going to skip this one and we're going to tie on to this one right here. So make sure you have 3/11, 3/11, and then tie on to this 11/0. So there's one section in between. And what we're going to do is we're going to go between this 8/0 seed bead and this 11/0 right here. We'll get you really close. And pull. Now, pull your thread down to where you have a little bit enough to tie a knot, a little bit left over here. So just tie a knot with the two ends here. Make sure that knot goes down between the beads as you do this. Between that 11/0 and that 8/0 and nowhere else. Right there. And then tie it again because this needs to be very secure. would be nice to be able to have tied on over here and sew down through, but it's very difficult to sew through these beads in the back. If you can do that, more power to you. Do it. Tie on over here, sew down through, and make your way over to these 3 beads. That would be more secure if you can do it. I'm just going to cut this down some so it's out of my way, but I want to leave enough so I don't pull it through. And then I'm going to go through these 3 11-0 seed beads right here. I'm going to start my unit, and I'll sew through it and secure it by doing that. Just make sure your knot is good and tight, and you should be able to start your unit. So what we need now is to do exactly what we did on the other side. We need a 6mm bicone crystal and 3 11-0 or 8-0 seed beads and a 6mm bicone crystal. Now we're going to go into the opposite side of the 3 11-0s on the back here. So you're going to just bring your needle in through there. And I'm in a really awkward position, so give me a second. There we go. And we're going to pull these down. Now we're going to sew back up through this. We're going to sew through this twice because we want to make sure that we have something more secure than just that little knot holding us there. So we're going to go through all of these beads, and just like before on the top here, go through 1 each, and then in the middle one kind of pull it out so that it peaks up, and then go through your 8-0 and your crystal here. Turn your piece over. Make sure everything looks good. At this point, I'm going to burn down this tail because it's just going to be in my way. Be careful not to get any of your other threads, and just melt that in. It's not going to be in my way anymore. It's not going to block the beads, so I can burn it down. Then I'm going to go back into these 3 seed beads right here. And I lied. Maybe that did. No, it's the knot I tied that's blocking me. So I'm just going to have to go through them carefully. There we go. And pull this through. Like that. Turn it over, sew back through it again, and then go through it one more time. Actually, this should be enough. If you feel as if you want to go through it again, let me see how it looks. Yeah, let's just go ahead and go through it again. I just don't want to fill up my beads so much. If you're using really light beads, you'll really fill them up with thread, and you'll see the thread through your crystal, and it'll look kind of cloudy. So, but as much as we can get security here, since we've tied that knot, we want to get that. So now we're going to come back up into this middle bead here, and like we did on the other side, we're going to pick up 2 3mm bicone crystals, and we're going to pick up actually a bicone crystal, then 2 8-0s, and then a bicone crystal. So I'm using the 3mm now, and I am going to do just like I did on the other side. I'm going to go back through the opposite side of this 8-0 that I'm anchoring to right here. You back you off just a little bit here and come through. Then we're going to sew up through the crystal and the 8-0 on this side. Pull the thread through, sew down through the next 8-0 and the crystal underneath it. Come back through the 8-0, and then come back up through your 8-0 and your crystal on this side. Pick up 2 8-0 seed beads. Go through the 8-0 next to the one you're coming out of. I am really having thread issues. I'm sorry, guys. Pull this down, and then, now get everything out of whack here. and tangled on my scissors. Now I'm going to pick up a 15-0 seed bead and go from this 8-0 over to this one, up through the bottom, through the top 8-0 also, and pull that 15-0 seed bead down, and then I'm going to pick up two 8-0 seed beads. I'm going to come through the opposite, or the one next to the one I'm coming out of, and then pick up a 15-0 seed bead, go into my 8-0 next to the one I'm coming out of. Now I've been doing this for hours and you'd think it'd be easier. There we go. Alright. Get my 15-0 in place. Now, I have started this side, and what we're going to do is just copy exactly what we did on the other side. So go ahead and make your 20 units, and then your end, and your right angle weave, and your end, and start another 20. Do exactly what you did on this side. If you need to back up the video to watch the clasping, once you get to that portion, do that. But go ahead and do your entire side like you did the first side, and then we'll be back to see the finished product. Okay, so I have finished my entire side and put my clasp on and sewed back through and tied up, and this is my finished product. Now, this turned out to be a 20-inch necklace. I really wanted it to be like 18, so it hung just at my throat. However, just below my throat a little bit. However, if you want that look, it still hangs pretty. I put it on and it hangs really pretty. I may decide to take this back extension part off. However, I like this back extension part because it twirls up like this and allows the herringbone to lay correctly. So I would still use this. I would just say do your herringbone a little bit shorter on either side. Your last unit, maybe make it only 15 units instead of 20, and add this extension. Because, like I said, it has movement. It lays behind your neck correctly, and now it will twirl if you put your toggle on incorrectly. But if you put your toggle on correctly, do not twist it, then it will lay nicely on your neck. So anyway, that's what this looks like. And let me get close so you can see the pendant again. That's what that looks like. And the clasping. It's really pretty. I like this one. It turned out really nice. It's kind of a sophisticated look. I think I might put that in the title or something, in the name. Anyway, that is what I have made today. I hope you enjoy it. I hope you make yourself one. Stay healthy. Bye-bye.